Let's start. So we're exploring putting Iain McGilchrist's thought, some elements of Iain McGilchrist's thought into practice. What I'm hoping that you'll have done by now, and if you haven't, do go back and do it. Have a look at Untitled and my conversation with Iain McGilchrist. The book itself, the Master and His Emissary, is very substantial. I would very much recommend it. I think outside of Buddhism, it's one of the most important books I've read for a long time. But it's quite substantial, so you might find it easier just to watch the interviews. And you might want to tune into Jon of Archer's seminar. I'll get Nick to put the links for everything at the end. But yeah, what we're hoping is that, first of all, we explore someone's thought about the nature of mind. Then we're going to deepen that exploration with an interactive seminar. And then we're going to try to embody what we've learned in our meditation. If you know Buddhism, that actually does follow the 3 levels of wisdom, where you learn about something, you're open to something, you then explore it by discussing it with teachers and friends, and then you try to meditatively own it, as it were, make it your own. Yeah. So yesterday we were trying to open up to the whole body, and we'll do a bit more of that today. In the Master and His Emissary, Iain McGilchrist quotes Merleau-Ponty. I don't know whether that's quite how you pronounce it. And Merleau-Ponty says that he really emphasizes the body, the sense of the body, not as something we live inside, not even an extension of ourselves, but as an aspect of our existence, fundamental to our being. And Iain McGilchrist says that's a kind of fundamental sort of statement from Merleau-Ponty, this French philosopher. So that the body isn't just an aspect of itself. It's not something that we're living inside. It's a lived body, that mind and body need to be more and more lived through. Iain McGilchrist says if we're not careful, we turn the body into a thing, even a thing for fun. You can see this, can't you? Sometimes people's attitude to their body, they might have a strong belief in the body and valuing of the body, but the body is seen from outside. Going to the gym all the time or doing even yoga can kind of drift in that direction. That the body is a thing that you're trying to make as beautiful and as like an expensive car. Everybody wants to be beautiful. After a certain age, it's tricky to do. But it's that attitude of the body as a thing that we need to improve. It's problematic in itself. So Merleau-Ponty says that we need to have this lived body that we're living through. And of course, most of us now are more and more alienated from our body and alienated from the natural world. So we'll keep exploring the body in these meditations in the morning. But today I want to sort of take another tack. So, Iain McGilchrist, as I said yesterday, is saying that there are 4 paths to truth, yeah? Science, reason, intuition, and imagination. And in many senses, they all need to be linked, yeah? And we're exploring particularly intuition and imagination this week. Reason is obviously strongly part of that, but probably there's not going to be that much science. So I want to explore a little bit more about imagination. So yesterday I was trying to sort of make the point that, it's Iain McGilchrist's point and Bhante Sangharakshita's point, the founder of the movement. They're both making this distinction between imagination and fantasy, a very, very important distinction. So the first way of making that distinction is that imagination is embodied. It's not a split-off idea, even a split-off idea about the body. Yeah? imagination is a embodied sense. Coleridge talked about the imaginal, the imaginal sense, which he talked about as an embodied, integral sense. It's not a split-off fantasy. You could say that the imagination is our greatest gift, really, human beings' greatest gift. We can imagine ourselves into a future. But we need to be really clear of the distinction between imagination and fantasy. And often enough, for instance, in meditation, it's fantasy that takes us away from imagination. When we're lost in what Buddhism calls prapuncture, which means mental proliferation. Really what's happening is we're very often just lost in a fantasy, aren't we? A fantasy about the future, a fantasy about the past, fantasy about where we'd like to be. So one of the ways of cultivating an integral imagination is cultivating this body sense, a much deeper sense of the body, and not the body as made up of parts that we can visualize and name, like leg, foot, etc., but as a spirit that we're living through. So I was emphasizing yesterday this whole body sense. And this whole body sense wants to be integrated with awareness. So it's not that you're aware of the body from somewhere up here. You're vividly aware of the body. And this has an effect on the whole body sense, and even how you sense other people's bodies in a way. It might link to this sense of gravitas. When you sometimes meet people, they seem to have gravitas. In other words, their mind, their body, their thought all seem to run together in a new unity. So that's always where we're going in meditation. And it's really striking to me that Iain McGilchrist is saying that unity is very much to do with the right hemisphere of the brain. So we're moving towards this new unity, and that gives us a kind of gravitas. It gives your body a certain gracefulness and so forth. So we'll do that again this morning, exploring the whole body sense. And I even said yesterday that the whole body sense goes beyond the body a bit. The body is not a literal container like my glass of water. Our body sense is, if we actually explore it rather than think about it in a kind of analytical and broken off way, which more and more of us are getting more and more prone to in every area of life, thinking in terms of categories, thinking in terms of language without tone and so on. If we can sort of expand, if we can have an integral sense of our body, it sort of shines beyond itself a bit. So we'll do that again, but I want to also then tip that awareness into a sense of well-being. So imagination is grounded in a whole body sense, it's embodied, but it also needs to be grounded in well-being, in a sense of being at home in yourself. And that isn't just, a kind of mindfulness thing. Even this word mindfulness, I think, is straying over to be what Iain McGilchrist would say would be left-brained. Slightly analytical, slightly cool, slightly detached. We can even think, I think even mindfulness can start to be a bit like that. It's what Bhante Sangharashta used to call alienated awareness. So even your practice of mindfulness can be a little bit sort of detached. And that's very, as Iain McGilchrist would say, was very left-brained. So that sense of being at home in the body needs to there needs to be a strong sense of, not necessarily a strong sense, but a sense of well-being, a sense of being at home in your own experience, and that is pleasurable and valuable. It's not something you're thinking, it's something you're at home in your body. So I want to talk a little bit more about that today, and then we'll practice that. So those of you who've been meditating, for a while, I know some of you on the call have. I'm hoping that many of you on the call are new to meditation, and I'm particularly welcome to you. So one of the things that we're always teaching in meditation is what tends to be called the hindrances to meditation. So if you're not fully absorbed in your body sense, if you're not kind of at home in the body, if you're not really absorbed in the breath, you'll be caught up in one of the so-called hindrances. It's interesting, the actual word, the Pali word for that in ancient Buddhist language, a Pali word that we translate as hindrances, is actually nivaranas, and that means coverings, yeah? So it's a much better metaphor than hindrance, I think. So that your mind is covered over by the hindrances, or by various things. Well, now, the reason I like that metaphor is because it's a metaphor of depth, that your mind is infinitely deep, but it's covered over by the nivaranas, yeah, by what we tended to translate as hindrances. So what the Buddha is saying is that we get stuck to the surface of our mind, yeah. In a way, this would be a Buddhist sort of exploration of the nature of mind. The Buddha would say, you don't know anything about the nature of mind because you get stuck to the surface of it. And the surface of it is firstly wanting something other than you're experiencing, which Buddhism talks in terms of as craving or hankering. Not wanting things that you are experiencing, including thoughts in your mind, which is the Buddha would characterize as aversion or ill will. So you can be stuck, can't you? When you go away from the meditation, you're either wanting something, even if it's hankering for something in the past, or wanting something in the future, possibly breakfast. You're either wanting something or you're feeling aversive to something, and that can be aversive even to thoughts in your own mind. It can be aversive to discomfort in the body. You're either wanting something or aversive to something, or you're feeling anxious or restless. You're mentally anxious or physically restless, or you're feeling sleepy or slothful. You're either physically tired or mentally torpid, or you're doubting, yeah, or at least that's how it's usually put. You don't quite convinced of meditation. I think it's probably better for doubt to say that you're not committed. A lot of the reason we don't get very far in meditation is because we don't really commit to it. And the reason we don't really commit to it is we're not convinced that meditation is what we really should be doing now. A part of you is sort of thinking, even now, perhaps I should have stayed in bed. And that's because you think that might have been a more valuable experience than tuning into Maitreyabandhu leading a meditation. Yeah. And you see how if you're not convinced of meditation and if you're not committed to it, what you'll get is a not very strong meditation, which will confirm that you were right not to be committed to it. Yeah, so what you get from non-commitment is a confirmation bias that you were right not to be committed. So if it's to the degree you're not committed pretty much to anything, you won't get much back from whatever it is. If you're painting a picture and you're not committed to it, it won't get very far. So you'll think, yeah, it's not for me. Commitment creates experience. As soon as you're committed to meditation, your meditation will go deeper. If you don't commit yourself, it won't go deeper, no. And you'll think, yeah, I'm not quite convinced of meditation, and what you'll get is evidence that you were right not to be convinced. Yeah. So those are the nivaranas. Those are the things that the Buddha said 2,500 years ago that you'll get stuck into very easily. And a lot of meditation, and pretty much every time you meditate, you'll be working with the nivaranas. There's no way around that. There's no kind of spooky spiritual way of getting around that. Yeah. Your attitude to the nivaranas is going to be essential. If you get anxious about feeling anxious, or irritated about feeling aversive, you just get stuck in them more and more. The nivaranas are a bit like flypaper. once you get stuck to them, you react to them and get more and more stuck to them. So you notice self-critical thoughts in your mind, and then you think, oh, I can't believe I'm doing that self-critical thing again. And then that's just more self-criticism, yeah. And then you think, oh, no, I'm doing that, telling myself off for more self-criticism, and then that gets you more and more involved in. So how you work with the nivaranas, the so-called hindrances, the coverings of the mind, is absolutely crucial, yeah. So I want to, this morning, just talk about one way of working with them. So we're going to do that body sense again. We're just going to keep opening out to the whole body sense, however the body is, whether it's comfortable or not. And then when our mind goes off into one of the nivaranas, as it's inevitably will do, and one of the things to really make sure we're doing is not make any kind of problem of that. As soon as we problematize the nivaranas, we take them personally, in other words, we'll just get more and more caught up in them. What I want us to do is cultivate the opposite. Amalabhadra and I were talking about this yesterday. It's a very, very standard Buddhist teaching that you cultivate the opposite. But with so many Buddhist teachings, what you get is that little headline, but if you're not careful, you never think about it again. You never think about what's really being got at there. So one of the things that I've been doing more and more, in a certain sense, you don't even need to think of it as cultivating the opposite. You just sort of cultivate what you want. Even that metaphor of cultivating the opposite slightly shines your mind onto the opposite. You've got ill will, you need to cultivate the opposite. But somehow, even when you're thinking like that, you're thinking ill will. What you want is non-ill will. You want warmth, love, connectedness. Yeah? So what I would suggest we'll do today is go between a body sense. Remember, I'm teaching kind of integral approaches to meditation. I'm not particularly teaching a particular practice anytime this week, because I want to make sure that anyone can join in on this meditation, whether they've ever meditated before or not. You'll just be sitting on a chair like I am, and you can just do it. You can invite your friend to come join to register tomorrow, and they can just do it. I'm never assuming that you've meditated before. So we'll have this whole body sense, but then we'll just cultivate what we want. Yeah. So what I mean by that is we just imagine what we want. And we need to do that with this integral body sense. But we'll just sort of, for a while, just imagine, I don't know, we can imagine it all sort of ways. You can just imagine that, actually, I'm here on my retreat in Hereford with Amalabhadra in the connected shrine room here. You'll be, on the Ivory Coast or in Sheffield or wherever you are, and you can just imagine that you're just sitting in your room and you're quite happy. You're comfortable, you're happy. Now, you're not pretending that. You're not doing that to get away from experience. You're just sort of just imagining it, or you can just bring to mind a time when you were meditating and you did feel very committed to it, and you did feel like, this is lovely to meditate. When you get into meditation, even on the outskirts of meditation, it's such a relief. So nice not to be in this jangly, noisy, chatty mind. This sort of opinionating, left-brained kind of mind. Such a relief not to be in there. So you can just bring to mind a time where you did feel that, where you felt very absorbed in meditation. Perhaps you've had, meditation you had before, and try to bring it to mind, as clearly as you can, just to remember how it felt in the body. So in other words, you can just imagine what you want. You need to do that in an intrinsic way, not in a kind of silly way, not in a broken off way, but just imagine feeling well, imagine feeling very deeply embodied and relaxed and at ease within yourself, at home in yourself. And you don't need to be too fastidious about is that true or not? And you particularly don't want to be too fastidious about is it working? Because as soon as you get into is it working, you're actually subtly going into aversion. I think I'll talk more about aversion tomorrow. But when we think, is this working? Is this meditation getting anywhere? You're sort of subtly going into aversion. Yeah? And aversion will push you away from the meditation. Say more about that tomorrow. But yes, what I would like to do today is we'll move between this full body awareness, and then we'll just imagine where we'd like to be just now. And all of us would like to be well and happy and connected with other people and at home in ourselves and non-divided, non-stressed, with that sense of well-being and sort of basic self-liking. Yeah. And we can just imagine we've got that. We don't need to sort of cultivate it or develop it. We can just imagine it's already there. Yeah. And you're just having a bit of a break from your, Iain McGilchrist would say you're just having a bit of a break from your left hemisphere. So you're not thinking, but hang on, that's not actually strictly true. And but hang on, you're just thinking, oh, let's just have a holiday from the tedium of prose and facts and categories and analysis. And you're just imagining that you're feeling great just now. It doesn't need to be great, but just you're imagining you're okay. There's nothing to worry about yourself. I don't, personally, in my own meditation practice, I haven't. It's only more recently in my life I've given enough full attention to this. It's in my life it's been it's been that strange question of how do you cultivate self-esteem. I've always been rather dogged by lack of self-esteem, and it goes back to my early experience in life. And I used to try all sorts of things to sort of improve that, and some of those actually made it worse. I think there's something slightly mysterious about self-esteem. What I'm now just doing is just imagining it. Because if you're not careful, you then start, why have I got this self-esteem issue? Is it because of this? Is it because of that? And if you, unbeknown to you, you're just sort of problematizing yourself more and more, and you get sort of in a little sort of wormhole of trying to work out the problem of your own unhappiness, which makes you unhappy. As soon as you get preoccupied with the problem of your own unhappiness, and I'm afraid unhappiness has been a very strong part of my life, less so nowadays, but it's been a big part of my life. And as I grew up, I was very preoccupied with the problem of my unhappiness, and without realizing it, that was making me more unhappy. What's wrong with me? Why am I not happy? Oh, it's happening again. I was happy a minute ago, I'm not now. And one of the ways I'm discovering in the last wee while is that we need to just imagine more what we want, rather than trying to use that left brain analytic mind to work out why we've not got what we want. Yeah. So often that just doesn't really work. Okay, that's enough from me just now. So let's set ourselves up for meditation. We'll do meditation for 35, 40 minutes, and I'll lead us through it as I did yesterday. And then there'll be time for questions at the end. And as I said yesterday, you might want to turn down your screen or put flux on in your screen so that you don't have the light of the screen shining into your eyes. Yeah, so make sure you're setting up so that you're as comfortable as possible. And if you're not comfortable on the chair, on the floor, a chair would be great. And as usual, I'll read home at the start of the meditation and at the end. So as soon as you've got yourself set up, closing your eyes, And as soon as you close your eyes, tuning into your body. So start in this very simple way of the weight of the body on the ground. Your feet on the floor. Tuning into the warmth of your body, the weight of your body. And once again, I'll lead us through just relaxing the body, calming the body. Once again, starting with your face. Softening your eyes. Softening your brow. See if you can release your jaw. And bringing your attention into your shoulders. And really feeling your shoulders. Not thinking about them, just opening up to the sensations in your shoulders. It's quite often discomfort in the shoulders. So see if you can just welcome that, soften into that rather than try to push it away or tense up around it. And you can just imagine your shoulders dropping down your back. You've got nothing to do just now. So you can just relax, you can just sit. And bringing your attention into your belly. Feeling any gripping or holding on in your belly. We're doing that usually without noticing it. Let's see if you can soften your belly. You might breathe into your belly. And noticing your thighs. See if you can tell if you're gripping in your thighs. We're often doing this without noticing it. Just see if you can let the thighs go, or even just imagine your legs relaxed and heavy and warm. So your whole body is calming down, quieting down. If I could tell you, time will say nothing but I told you so. Time only knows the price we have to pay. If I could tell you, I would let you know. If we should weep when clowns put on their show, if we should stumble when musicians play, time will say nothing, but I told you so. There are no fortunes to be told, although, because I love you more than I can say, if I could tell you, I would let you know. The winds must come from somewhere when they blow. There must be reasons why the leaves decay. Time will say nothing, but I told you so. Perhaps the roses really want to grow. The vision seriously intends to stay. If I could tell you, I would let you know. Suppose the lions all get up and go, and all the brooks and soldiers run away. Will time say nothing, but I told you so? If I could tell you, I would let you know. So opening up your awareness to include your whole body. Feeling the whole body and even a little bit beyond the body. Keep on coming back to that whole body sense. Your mind goes off, just open out again to the whole body. You don't even need to bring yourself back. As soon as you notice that your mind has gone off, you're already back. All you need to do then is open up to the whole body sense. Or if you notice your mind going off, stretching out your awareness again, fill the whole body. If your mind goes off, don't make any kind of problem of that. Just what the mind does. Just open out again to an awareness of your whole body. Just staying in touch with this relaxed whole body sense. See if you can imagine the state of mind you want to be in. So, state of well-being, of ease, pleasure. So you could either imagine that you're feeling like that now, or you could remember a time when you felt like that. Perhaps remember a meditation like that. And with the imagination, you're not trying to make a big effort. It's just like the imagination that arises when you read a novel. You don't try to picture the people, you just read and then it's all happening. So all you need to do is lightly imagine in an embodied way the state of mind that you need, that you want, you'd like to bring into being. And just play with that a bit. Don't make it something you're pondering over in a super serious kind of way. Just play with it and play with it in the body, not just thinking about it in your head. And while you're doing that, just checking every so often that you're not tensing up, that you're not pushing it. You can tell if you're doing that by noticing if you're screwing up your eyes or slightly tensing your shoulders, your belly. And then just open out to the whole body again. Feeling the warmth and the energy of the body. See if you can open out to that. You're wanting a sense of your awareness mixed through the body, not kind of coming from your head. You're trying to unify your awareness with your body sense. And again, imagining the state of mind you need. Imagining feeling well and happy, embodied. You don't need to try to do this too much. It's quite a light thing. You might bring to mind a time when you felt happy and content. And then once again opening up to the whole body sense, to the warmth of your body and the weight of your body. Opening up to the sounds around you. They're just appearing in your mind without you having to try to listen. So you're really having this sense of wholeness, my body, and the sounds in the mind. If I could tell you, time will say nothing, but I told you so. Time only knows the price we have to pay. If I could tell you, I would let you know. If we should weep when clowns put on their show, if we should stumble when musicians play, time will say nothing, but I told you so. There are no fortunes to be told, although because I love you more than I can say, if I could tell you, I would let you know. The winds must come from somewhere when they blow. There must be reasons why the leaves decay. Time will say nothing, but I told you so. Perhaps the roses really want to grow. The vision seriously intends to stay. If I could tell you, I would let you know. Suppose the lions all get up and go, and all the brooks and soldiers run away. Will time say nothing, but I told you so? If I could tell you, I would let you know. So when you're ready, coming out of meditation. Good. So, as usual, we've got a little bit of time for questions. So, as we did yesterday, if you put the questions in chat, and then Nick will sort of collate some of them together. And then some of you have to literally Zoom off to work, sometime on Zoom, sometimes I'm going to work nowadays, and we're all working remotely. Anyway. So yeah, if you've got any questions, things that you'd like to sort of explore a bit more, hear a bit more about, that'd be great.
So Jane's asking, could you say more about the distinction between fantasy and imagination?
Yeah, thank you, Jane. I think it's interesting. I've taught this so many times. It's interesting. It's one of those things that every time I teach it, I think, what is the distinction again? You can sort of mention Coleridge, which is always slightly highfalutin, and talk about the distinction, but it's actually in practice kind of more difficult than it seems. I think probably in meditation I wouldn't worry too much about it. I'd just play with it a bit. Imagination is a faculty. I mean, you know what it's like. It's so deep to us, we don't really notice we've got it. I'm reading a novel at the moment for the next poetry, so I'm interviewing Monique Rofi. I'm reading her novel, The Mermaid of Black Conch. And you know what it's like when you read a novel. At first you sort of look at it and think, how long is it? And you're sort of not very committed to it. And then as you read it, the characters start to come alive, don't they? You don't literally picture them. I don't sit and think, well, hang on, what does a mermaid look like? And sort of close a book and imagine the Caribbean. And so one thing you learn from that is that imagination, whatever it is, it's quite light, it's not forced, it's not too much of a doing. You just read the novel, and before you know it, you actually feel for the characters in the novel. Yeah. I remember reading many, many years ago, I think it was Nickleby. And when you're really into a novel, by the end, you start reading it slower because you don't want to lose them. You don't want to, you don't want to have to leave them. Your imagination is so lit up. So imagination is to do with a kind of integral play. It's basically not sort of wish fulfillment, but as long as you keep on being embodied, so you're just imagining it in the state of mind you want in a very kind of light way, non-ponderous way. I think one of the reasons it goes a bit wrong is we ponder over the imagination in a way that you never would if you read a book. You think of yourself as reading for pleasure, don't you? You don't really kind of try and crack your head on it. You just your imagination opens out to it. So you want to have that sense in the meditation that it's like that you're just imagining, just playing a bit. The main thing is to just keep making sure, A, that it's embodied, so you keep coming back to your whole body sense, and B, that you're not pushing it too much. And you can tell if you're pushing it too much because you're furrowing your brow and you're tightening your shoulders and so on. Yes, but I think it's probably more like you have deep imagination on one end of a spectrum and sort of complete fantasy on the other. And probably we're trying to move along that spectrum to a deeper and deeper imagination sense. Because even that sense of your imagination in a novel or a piece of music can deepen to become something, very profound indeed. I mean, what Buddhism would add to the whole discussion of the imagination is that the imagination can lead you so deeply that you enter into the realm that we normally reserve for religion. What we've done in life is we've put a sort of one of those police barriers, somewhere in imagination that says religion this way, so don't go any further. So we've got a sort of weird barrier to imagination, whereas we're allowed to imagine landscapes and so on, but we can't imagine Buddha figures or something. A Buddhist vision of imagination is it can go much, much further than we think into a realm that we normally call mystical, where figures seem to appear to you, living dynamically in your mind. And, Buddhism would include visionary experiences in imagination. And I've had those myself, not as many as I'd like. So imagination clearly has this capacity to deepen far beyond our normal sense of the imagination. The word imagination is too secular. It sort of has its own built-in limit. I'm not sure whether Coleridge thought of it like that, but that's what it's come to be. But yeah, fantasy, the most obvious, sorry to be so smutty at this time of morning, but the most obvious example of fantasy is pornography, isn't it? Where you, sort of wish you looked like them and you wish you were in that situation, but you're not and you're never going to be. It's a clear picture of fantasy. Yeah? And fantasy has a kind of narcotic effect on you. It's ego-driven. It's fantasy-driven. It has a sort of narcotic effect. Imagination, long as you're sensitive to the sort of dynamics of imagination, has a sort of enriching effect on you. But yeah, I think in practice the distinction is not as clear as it sounds in reason, as it were. I don't know if that's helpful, but it makes sense.
So Tracy is asking, firstly, she says, thank you so much. Could you please talk about effort needed in these meditations?
Yes, very good question, Tracy. I mean, so much comes down to this question of effort. You do need to make an effort. There's no way around that. Some people try to sort of cast a spell with words to say you don't need to make an effort. I mean, the main effort you need to make is actually turning up to meditate, isn't it? Getting out of bed. I don't know whether you find it an effort. I find it an effort. So getting out of bed and turning up at your meditation cushion is probably the main effort you need to make. What I find when we do these meditation Zoom things in the morning is that they gradually tail off as people can no longer make an effort to tune in. So don't do that. So one of the main efforts is actually simply turning up. But even, you see, remember, language is metaphorical. So even the metaphor of effort sounds effortful. So when you say you need to make an effort, somewhere in your mind you link that with something like pushing a car or lifting a heavy box or forcing yourself to do your maths homework when you're a teenager. The metaphor itself is slightly effortful, if you see what I mean. What we need to do in meditation is subtleize our sense of what effort means. It's easier to say what it doesn't mean, but so really look out for that pushing. And pushing is nearly always trying to push to get what you want. When we push, and we call that an effort, it's really to get something we want. So even when we're imagining we're well and happy, often enough we're trying to push to get that. Imagination, when you imagine reading a book, you're not pushing to meet the mermaid of black conch. You're not thinking that you'll get somewhere. It's just unfolding, isn't it? So effort needs to have this kind of sort of subtlety to it. A lot of effort is to do with, a lot of what we need to do in meditation is check the kind of effort. Check the kind of attitude and effort you've got to your experience just now. I'll talk more about this tomorrow, but you need to have this, to be doing the meditation and then just occasionally just step out of it and check what your attitude to what you're doing is like. Even your attitude to your own imagination. Are you sort of slightly squeezing it and forcing it? Or are you just drifting in a sort of cotton woolish way it's very easy to overstress the danger of making too much effort. Most of us, I don't think, make enough effort in the right kind of way. I include myself. It's, that we can think, oh, I don't want to do that pushing, forcing thing. So you end up not really making any kind of effort, and then you get nowhere, and then you think, what's the point? A lot of people give up meditation because they don't make a very good kind of effort. But the whole art of effort is an art. It's a full art. And in your meditation, you need to keep on checking the kind of effort you're making. And that effort needs to have a sort of element of play in it. It needs to be not taking yourself too ponderously seriously, but it's particularly very prone to being over earnest. Although people who write poetry are also rather prone to that, in my experience. I don't know whether footballers are, but anyway, I've only got limited experience of that. And so you need to sort of light touch, really, and you need to kind of keep monitoring your attitude to your experience in the meditation. Just keep. I think that's very important. There's a sort of playful experimentation in your meditation, and you're monitoring your attitude to yourself. Is your attitude to yourself too much on your own case, or are you actually just sort of not very committed? So much about meditation is valuing meditation, valuing the state of mind itself, not sort of just doing it because it's vaguely good for you, because it's vaguely spiritual. You sort of you're trying to cultivate, look, I do actually value myself doing this. I do want to come into a deeper relationship with myself, a more felicitous relationship with myself, a more flourishing way of being with myself. Yeah, you need to sort of value that, and that creates a certain kind of effort. As long as we don't take that metaphor of effort too effortlessly, effortful. You're not trying to push a car or lift a heavy box when you make an effort in meditation. You're trying to get interested in what's in your own experience and want to start to take delight in that and want to value that and cherish that, rather than worry about how you can't meditate, how you wish you were better at this, and how you thought you were better than this, but hope to be better than that person. Yeah. So I think it's probably better to talk about this sort of just a bit of a keep on coming back to what is my attitude to my experience just now in the meditation. Am I trying to get something? Am I trying to push for something? Or am I not really investing in myself? When we say, interested in the experience of meditation, it means investing in yourself, valuing yourself just now, not as someone who can scroll through your phone or as someone who can knock through your to-do list. Sometimes that's valuable. But as someone who just values their own opening experience. And then how do you encourage your experience to open up? And, two ways of doing that is firstly, this whole body awareness, and secondly, this imagining the state of mind you'd like to be in, is better, yeah? Not getting hypnotized by negative states of mind, but I'll talk about that a bit more perhaps tomorrow. But yeah, it's a real art, this art of effort.
So Roland is asking, was I right in thinking you were saying sometimes to try to find the origin of our suffering can be counterproductive?
Yeah, you were right, yes. I mean, this is partly talking from my own experience, but I have spent far too much of my life trying to discover the origin of my suffering. When I was younger, I was very influenced by what was called the drama of being a child by, I can't remember what her name was now, but I got into that kind of trying to sort of sort through my psychology to find out where it all went wrong. It was like I was trying to unknit the jumper of myself, find out where I'd knitted rather than purled, and then re-knit myself again. And what that did is it made me more and more unhappy. I'm not trying to argue against self-awareness. One needs to know oneself, the kind of structure yourself, that you're this kind of person, not that kind of person. A lot of meditation is discovering the kind of creature you are, and making the best use of the kind of creature you are. You can't be a different person. Like I was, personally, I was very unhappy as a child, and even very, very unhappy, as a child and a young adult. And taking up the Maitreyabandhu practice that we teach in Triratna actually made it worse, because what it did for me is that, I kept thinking I should be happy and I wasn't. And then where was I going to get that from? But yeah, I got very concerned with the causes and reasons for my unhappiness. What I didn't realize that meant I was dwelling on my unhappiness more and more. I was going over, why am I not happy? Why am I always getting like this? And all I was doing, I was hypnotizing myself into unhappiness. And if we're not careful, we even dignify that. I'm afraid Buddhists can be prone to this. Dignify that into sort of depth, that's me really being aware of myself. Actually, in my experience, that was me just fostering my own unhappiness. And I can see why I did that, because it really did feel like, gosh, I'm really unhappy. What's the solution to that? But when I focused on the solution to my unhappiness, it made me feel more unhappy. There's a limited value. I suppose the best way I've found of talking about this, and it's a tricky thing to talk about because you can get it wrong in every which way, but you're trying to be a friend to yourself. That's the best attitude that you're trying to cultivate. Now, that a friend, a genuine friend, they empathize with you. They say, gosh, that, what you experienced there as a child does sound very, very difficult, and that will have patterned your sort of brain sense and so on. Now, a good friend is really empathic. They can sort of listen to you and gosh, that does sound difficult. But a genuinely good friend won't indulge you. I've been blessed to have genuinely good friends, Maitreyabandhu being one of them. They won't indulge you, so they won't let you off with that. They won't go, oh, dear, oh, there. Sympathy actually often is not very good for people. A good friend will say, yeah, but you don't need to worry about that too much. And do you know what? I don't think it's always that bad, because you seemed quite happy yesterday, let's just imagine, why don't you just sort of imagine being, they won't kind of set you in your unhappiness. When friends do that, it's often enough because they like to separate your, they think, well, you're unhappy, but I'm happy and I'm the one who's helping you. So a good friend will both empathize with you and say, no, but there's much more to you than that. You don't need to, that's all right. Often enough when I'm talking to my friends, I find myself saying, oh no, I wouldn't worry about that too much. That'll change with time. That's just because you're, so much of the things I look back on, it's just because you're young, basically. And you sort of think, oh, it'll be fine. Don't worry about that. Don't worry. You want, a good friend will know that there's much more to you and will encourage that. So you're trying to have that attitude to yourself in meditation. Gosh, yeah, my body's a bit painful. I'm a bit stirred up today. And I empathize with that, but I can just imagine more than that. There's much more to me than my difficult, pain in my body or my difficult experience I had yesterday. I don't need to over-focus on that. I can empathize with it and acknowledge it and then move on. Like I have quite a lot of discomfort in meditation. And what I've been doing quite a lot of is turning towards it and feeling it and so on. But again, inadvertently, I think I was over-dwelling on it. Nowadays, what I'm doing is thinking, yes, there's all that discomfort, but we can just imagine that I'm feeling comfortable just now. Or I can imagine the breath just softening into all of that. I can configure the breath in a way that's soothing and softening and quietening. Even that sort of turning toward teaching that we can slightly get a bit glib can actually be a kind of attachment to or identification with pain, and that will make it worse. Now, there's so many ways to misunderstand that. You have to keep on, at the very least, tuning in this week. Because, I'm not trying to say, pain doesn't exist, and so on. It's just this very delicate matter of how do we empathize with discomfort and pain without identifying with it. When I was young, there's a certain point where we sort of made a career of our trauma. We used to do these thing where we go around a circle and report in, and it was like, who'd had the most trauma. And looking back on it, I wouldn't recommend that. We were trying our best, but there were the 90s. Okay, look, we're nearly running out of time already. So yeah, do share share this with your friends. It's really good. It'd be great for more and more people to join us. They can still, any friend can still join the Zoom session for the rest of this week. So I'll ask Nick to put the link to Nature of Mind. All you need to do is register, and then you'll get the Zoom link, or you can just, can you send, presumably Nick can just put the Zoom link in and just send it to friends and say, why don't you join us in meditation in the morning? The capacity of this form is that we could have, 10,000 people on this call. Well, I'm not sure we can, but maybe we could have a lot more. So if you can, that would really help, and we really want to get the word out. But I hope you have a lovely rest of the day, and or the evening, wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is. Very good to see some of you on our Zoom this morning, and I'll see you tomorrow. So what we'll do now is I'll ask Amlavadru to unmute us all, and we can do a big shout out, wave goodbye, and so you can unmute yourself and say bye-bye. Very nice to see you all.
Bye.
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 Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Everyone.
Bye.
See you later. See you later, everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
Thanks, Maitreyabandhu. See everyone.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Bye. See ya.
What, the woman with greyish pinkish hair?
Speaking to